The photograph sat on my kitchen table all night. I couldn't stop staring at it. Someone had followed me. Someone had watched me. Someone knew where I was staying, and whoever it was wanted me frightened. The worst part wasn't the threat. It was the certainty behind it. Whoever sent that picture knew exactly what they were doing. At 7:12 a.m., Daniel arrived at Tasha's apartment. The moment I opened the door, I saw the same fear on his face that I felt. He held his envelope in one hand. Identical, same photograph. Same message, stop asking questions. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Daniel said quietly, "We need to go to the police." I nodded. For the first time in weeks, we agreed on something. The police took the threat seriously, especially after Rebecca Hale came forward. She brought documents, emails, internal reports, audit records. The deeper investigators looked into the fertility clinic, the stranger things became. What started as a record discrepancy quickly turned into something much bigger, much darker. Several patient files had been altered. Not dozens, hundreds. Families had received incorrect diagnoses. Healthy couples had been told they were infertile. Infertile patients had received normal results. Medical histories had disappeared. Lab reports had been switched. Years of lives had been affected. Marriages had ended. Relationships had collapsed. People had given up on having children. Others had spent thousands on unnecessary treatments. The damage was enormous. And one question remained. Who was responsible? 3 weeks later, investigators got their answer. Her name was Dr. Victoria Langford, one of the clinic's senior administrators, respected, trusted, highly educated, the last person anyone suspected. For nearly 12 years, she had quietly manipulated patient records. At first, investigators believed it was simple corruption. But the truth was far stranger. Victoria secretly owned financial interests in multiple fertility treatment companies through shell corporations. The more patients believed they had fertility problems, the more money those companies earned, and the more money she made. Every false diagnosis created another customer. Every frightened couple became a source of profit. Investigators estimated millions of dollars had been generated through the scheme. Millions, built on broken hearts, broken marriages, broken dreams, including ours. When I heard the news, I felt physically sick. Not because of the money, because of the human cost. Victoria never met most of the people she hurt. She never saw them crying in parking lots, never watched them argue in kitchens, never witnessed relationships falling apart. To her, they were files, numbers, revenue. To us, they were our lives. That evening, Daniel asked to see me. We met at a small park where we'd once walked every Sunday. The winter snow had finally started melting. Everything looked gray, quiet, tired, kind of how I felt. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then Daniel broke the silence. "I don't expect forgiveness." I looked at him. He looked older, not physically, emotionally. Like the past month had aged him years. "You were right," he said. "About what?" "Everything." I didn't answer. He continued. "When I got those results 6 months ago, I panicked. His voice shook. I felt broken. I listened. I felt ashamed. He stared at the ground. I couldn't handle it. The pain in his voice sounded genuine. But so did mine when I was sleeping alone in a motel." He swallowed. So I hid it. I nodded slowly. "I know. I convinced myself I was protecting you." A bitter smile touched my lips. "No." His eyes filled with tears. "No," he whispered. "I was protecting myself." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then he looked directly at me. "The day you told me you were pregnant." His voice cracked. I was terrified. I already knew. But hearing it mattered. I believed the diagnosis. He lowered his head. "So, when you said you were pregnant, my brain immediately went somewhere awful." I stared at him quietly. Instead of trusting my wife, a tear slid down his cheek. I trusted my fear. Those words landed harder than any apology. Because they were true, and both of us knew it. Over the next month, Daniel tried, really tried, not grand gestures, not dramatic speeches, real effort, therapy, accountability, patience. He accepted responsibility without excuses. He listened. When I was angry, he listened. When I cried, he listened. When I refused to speak to him, he respected it. For the first time in years, he stopped trying to solve emotions like equations. He simply faced them. Still, trust doesn't magically return, especially after betrayal. Every day I asked myself the same question: could I ever trust him again? The answer wasn't obvious. Some days felt hopeful, other days felt impossible. Then something happened that changed everything. 7 months later, I went into labor. 3 weeks early. It started at 2:41 a.m. I woke with intense pain and immediately knew. This wasn't practice contractions. This was real. Tasha drove me to the hospital. Daniel arrived 15 minutes later. Breathless. Terrified. Holding the hospital bag we'd packed together weeks earlier. As nurses rushed around us, I looked at him. The same man who once threw me out. The same man who once doubted me. The same man who had spent months trying to earn his way back. And in that moment, I saw something different. Not perfection, not certainty, humility. The labor lasted 14 exhausting hours. 14 hours of pain, fear, exhaustion. And through all of it, Daniel never left my side. Not once. Then finally, at 4:37 p.m., our daughter arrived. Healthy, beautiful, perfect. The first sound she made was a tiny cry that instantly shattered every remaining wall inside me. I burst into tears. Daniel did too. The nurse placed her in my arms, and suddenly, nothing else mattered. Not the clinic, not the investigation, not the threats, not the betrayal, just this tiny human being, our daughter, the little girl who nearly never got the family she deserved. 2 days later, Daniel was holding her in the hospital room when he said something I'll never forget. "She saved my life." I smiled softly. That's a lot of pressure for a newborn. He laughed through tears, then shook his head. No. He looked at our daughter. Not because she was born. His voice softened. Because she forced me to become someone better. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he turned to me. "And whether you stay married to me or not," I looked up, "I'll spend the rest of my life proving I deserved a second chance." That was the moment I knew. Not because everything was fixed, not because the pain disappeared, but because real change had finally begun. And sometimes that's enough. A year after our daughter's birth, life looked very different. Dr. Victoria Langford was sentenced to prison. Hundreds of affected families received compensation. The fertility clinic underwent major reforms. Rebecca Hale became one of the key witnesses who helped expose the scheme. Tasha became our daughter's honorary aunt. Marisol remained fiercely protective. And Daniel. Daniel never stopped earning trust. Day by day, choice by choice, action by action, not because I demanded it, because he understood its value. Trust isn't rebuilt through promises, it's rebuilt through consistency. Eventually, our marriage survived. Not because the damage wasn't real, because both of us finally faced reality instead of fear. Looking back now, I sometimes think about that snowy night, the night I stood outside with a suitcase. Pregnant, heartbroken. Certain my life was falling apart. What I didn't know then was that some endings are actually beginnings. The truth eventually came out. The lies were exposed. Justice arrived. And a little girl entered the world surrounded by people who loved her. Not a perfect family, a real one, and that's worth far more. Life lesson: fear can make people believe lies. Pride can make people hide the truth, but trust, honesty, and accountability are what hold relationships together. When you choose fear over trust, you risk losing everything. When you choose truth, even when it's painful, you give love a chance to survive. The strongest relationships aren't the ones that never face storms. They're the ones that learn how to weather them together.